Hello, and welcome to Law and Society, where legal and social issues come together with Andrew Stevenson. How are you, sir?
I'm doing fine, Mark. How are you?
Andrew, let's start with you. This is a special show we're going to do once a month, and the idea is kind of common sense law and society issues, things that you're passionate about. And let's start with your background. Number one, I know you're a local attorney, a criminal defense attorney.
I'm a criminal defense attorney here in Lancaster.
Okay.
I was born and raised in Lancaster. My father practiced law here beginning in 1966. I know that because that's the year I was born.
Really?
And my mother's been a teacher at Fisher Catholic High School for many years.
Wow.
So,
And you also, you kind of have two different educational paths because you're a lawyer, an attorney, but you also hold a PhD in sociology.
I do. After law school, I continued my studies at Indiana University, where I got a PhD in sociology/criminology. I taught at college level for a couple of years, and then decided to come back and try my hand at the practice of law.
So what specialty in law? I mean, am I using the right term? Is it specialty or practice or?
My practice is limited to criminal defense work. That's all I do. All of my clients either have been or are about to be charged with a crime.
Wow.
But aside from that, I've in 20 years of practicing, I've seen trends, and I do have some concerns. I do a lot of public speaking.
And that's this is an outreach of that.
This
isn't
is an outreach of that. I gave a presentation 2 weeks ago in Logan to a group of parents about some of the concerns and dangers I think that our teenagers and youth are facing.
Yes.
Some of those topics we can address in future shows.
Right.
I also give presentations to high school students. One of the more popular ones I do are the top 10 things you can do to get yourself put in jail.
Right.
They seem to like that title a lot, and so some of those topics I hope to be able to address too.
You know, when we were kind of setting up for this show and kind of talking about what the concept would be, one of the things that kept that kind of a recurring theme is that, one mistake, one stupid moment can ruin someone's life, especially if they're like a young adult.
That's what I see every week in my office. There are good, fine young men, predominantly men, sometimes women, who have made a decision that can have far greater consequences than they ever imagined. And sadly, what a lot of parents say to me, a lot of moms in particular say, I didn't know. We just had no idea that activity or that this was going on.
Right.
We didn't understand what the dangers and risks were. And so what I'm trying to do is educate.
We have cameras and video recorders we're carrying around constantly, which means that we're creating evidence everywhere we go. And all it takes is one stupid moment to do something. And I use that, I'll start with, I mean, this isn't our topic today, but this is the kind of thing that you look at and you say, you just got to be so careful these days, is sending a photo. Let's say you're 19 years old and you got a young lady you like, and you send her a photo that's not appropriate,
Correct.
not suitable for work, as they say, and all of a sudden you got a 15 or 16-year-old with evidence against you.
Yeah.
Parent finds that on your phone, and all of a sudden you're charged with a sex crime.
Yeah. That's one of that's on the list, Mark.
And we're going to get to that.
That's on
but
the
those are the
list
kind of
of
things.
things, but-
Those are the kind of things you deal with, though.
Those are
right?
the kind of things I deal with day in and day out. But really, through my public speaking as well as through the show here, I hope to kind of educate parents so that they can help educate their children to avoid some of these mistakes.
And you have a lovely office, I'll just mention, right on Main Hill, 301 East Main Street.
Right across from the courthouse.
Right.
There.
You're they say you do your best business on Main Street. You're right at the court, right near the courts. Today's topic is kind of appropriate. We're actually recording this on April 20th, 420, which is popularly known as Weed Day.
Right.
Or Blaze It Day, or whatever you want to call it. And our topic today is marijuana.
Yes.
And the fact that we're in a state here in Ohio that is in a transition phase when it comes to how we look at marijuana.
We are. Marijuana, for medical reasons and for medical purposes, has its benefits. I appreciate that. I understand that. And I think our legislatures have recognized that and going to make a law what allows you to get a prescription and consume prescription marijuana. The problem is, however, that I think there are going to be some unintended consequences that stem from that. And the fact that all of marijuana is not going to be decriminalized.
Right. We're not decriminalizing social use of marijuana.
Correct.
Only if you have the medical prescription for it, right?
That is correct.
And there's only certain physicians that are even licensed to write those scripts.
Yes, and the lawsuit that was filed yesterday by the smaller growers who weren't given the permission is one of the areas that kind of.
And I've missed that lawsuit. So what's going on with that?
When the Department of Commerce passed out the right to be a grower, if you will, most of the licenses were given to bigger corporations. Smaller growers didn't quite get the opportunity.
Are we talking pharmaceutical companies, the traditional pharma companies? Okay, so the smaller people who thought they were going to be independent, entrepreneurial,
right,
kind of got.
Apparently, they kind of got they didn't pass the screening test or something. It's not exactly my area of expertise. I wasn't involved, but I saw it on the news, which got me thinking about some of the legal consequences. For example, the smell of marijuana, the Ohio Supreme Court many years ago said is probable cause for police officers to search a vehicle. And in my experience in the cases that I've handled, I find that is probably the number one reason that officers use to search motor vehicles.
By the way, on the top 10 things that can get you thrown in jail, marijuana is one of them, right?
It's number 10 on my list.
Number 10 on your list. Okay.
Yes.
So we're kind of doing a top. We're starting at number 10.
We're starting number 10, working down to number 1.
So as we understand it, you get as I would see that, you're going down 33 and you're, I don't know, you go slightly left of center. You do something that catches an
officer's attention.
Right. They pull you over and you roll your window down and they smell maybe marijuana smoke in your car. That is probable cause.
That is probable cause to search anywhere in that vehicle, including the trunk and any container.
At that point, there's no warrant needed, nothing.
No warrant,
It's probable cause.
Yes. And that's the number one, I have found, reason that officers use to search and make arrests.
Okay. So they smell the marijuana smoke and then they proceed to a search. Then they can bring a dog in, they can do whatever they want at that point. They can legally detain you by the side of the road.
Correct.
All right.
Until they complete the search of the entire car.
So now what happens if I say, oh, wait, yeah, that's marijuana. Do they even ask? I mean, I don't even know how this works. Do they say, I detect marijuana, I'm going to check your car? Or
pretty much, they usually ask you to step out. They'll say they detected marijuana. Okay. They'll have a conversation. If they feel it's a situation where a search is going to be fruitful, going to produce results, they usually will detain the people in the back of the police car and conduct a search.
See, and we see the headlines, they'll say, Highway Patrol makes a stop and here's 40 pounds of meth. Or, I mean, the ones that make the headlines are the ones that are the big drug busts.
Correct.
But for every one of those, there's a whole bunch of these other kind of little searches going on, right?
Sometimes the searches produce nothing, and the person's detained for a half an hour, an inconvenience, but they go on.
So, Andrew, now we come to the point where, okay, yes, that's marijuana smoke. Here is my
medical marijuana
card. What happens then?
We don't know. I think it's going to be one of the issues that's going to have to be litigated in the courts, because the idea of allowing the police officers to search was the fact that they had probable cause of the commission of a crime, which was the possession of marijuana. But if that's no longer a crime, did they have the right to search?
Well, is this not similar then to what's happened with concealed carry, where I have a concealed carry permit, I have a gun on my side, and I say to the officer, I have a weapon, but I have a concealed carry. If he sees that weapon and assumes the worst,
right?
Well, is it not a similar thing where they should then say, are you legally allowed to smoke marijuana? I mean, this is where it really gets gray to me.
It does, and I don't think we know exactly what's going to happen. We're going to have to get answers from the courts. I'm sure the other states have wrestled with this, and Ohio is going to have to do so as well.
We've got several states now that have medical marijuana as a it's in the law. It's legal. So we're not in uncharted territory. Unlike Colorado, where everything's legal and it really is. Now their biggest deal is the cash business and taxing and all of that. I mean, now let's get back to the growers for a second, because this is interesting. So there's going to be grow farms here in Ohio, right? Then again, the lawsuit's probably going to slow that down a little bit.
I don't know what's going to. I just saw a blurb on the news.
Mm-hmm.
It's not really of something that's of great interest to me.
Yeah.
But
well, in a way, it is because marijuana's on your top 10 list, and I'm sure you've defended kids that have had drug offenses.
One of the things that I found that parents are unaware of, particularly when young men or women, girls, boys get a minor misdemeanor possession of marijuana charge. On its face, it looks like a $150 fine. Pay the fine. Mom and dad never need to know. There used to be a mandatory license suspension, but now that's discretionary.
Okay.
And the judges tend not to give it for minor misdemeanor. However, there are some collateral consequences that people are unaware of. The number one, in my opinion, is financial aid. If you have any kind of drug conviction, the federal government says you are not eligible for financial aid for a year.
No grants for a year.
None.
No student loans
Nothing.
for a year.
You can lose it. So what happens is Johnny goes out, has a little marijuana in his car, gets pulled over, gets the ticket, doesn't tell mom and dad. He applies, he gets accepted to college, applies for financial aid, and mom and dad get the bad news that he's not eligible because he went and paid the ticket.
Wow. He thought it was just like a speeding ticket. Yeah.
Yes. So that's one of the unknown collateral consequences. Another one, obviously, is employment. It does cause a problem down the road for job applications. Employers pull your record. They see possession of marijuana. Some of them don't look as kindly on that as others.
Yeah, and that again, these one little, as I said at the start, one little thing, one moment of stupidity or one moment of illegal activity has these
long-term consequences.
Exactly. And then we're getting ready to take a break, but I want to talk about now with medical marijuana and this spillover that there's going to be a lot of misconceptions that, okay, it's decriminalized when it's not. We got to talk about DUI and all of the effects of that, and we'll do that when we come back. You're listening to Law and Society, where legal and social issues come together. Andrew Stevenson, our local attorney at law, criminal attorney, has graciously come on the radio to talk about these issues. So thank you for that.
Thank you for having me.
And we'll be back.